So in this tutorial, I'd like to go over setting up your pen assignments using the plot style table. Right now the drawing is still showing the colors of the layers, and there's the grid in the background. If I go over to model space, click on the model space tab, you can see the grid is in the background, and by pressing F7, the key F7, toggles the grid on and off. So I'm going to go back to my layout, double click in the viewport to activate it, press F7 to turn the grid off, and then double click in the gray space to go back to my paper space. So that just kind of makes it a little bit easier to work with the drawing and see the drawing. I'm going to rename this, so I right clicked on my layout 1 tab, and I could just rename that my 18 by 24 sheet. I'm going to right click again and then go back to my page setup manager. And we could see our 18 by 24 sheet there. I'm going to click on that, modify it, click the modify tab, and the area we're going to focus on, everything is still set the same, but I'm going to change the plot style table. So right now we have that set to none, and there's some default options that AutoCAD comes with, but I'm going to create a new plot style table. So I'm going to click new. I'm going to start from scratch with the new series of pen assignments, hit next. I'm going to name this file so you can save this. I'm going to name this floor plan 01. And just hit next. And now I can click on my plot style table editor. So when I click on that, it shows all of the different colors that AutoCAD comes with when we're setting up our layers. So 1 to 255, and the top 9 colors are basically the main colors that you'll be using. So under color right now it's set to use the object color, which is why it's showing up red or cyan or yellow. I'm going to change these to black because I want them to all be black lines. So I'm going to change that color 1 through color 8 basically to black. Since color 8 is my grid, I'm going to assign that a halftone, but for now they're all just set to black. The other option here is to set my line weight. So these are the different line weights, and it comes with the graphic. So I'm going to go back to my color 1, click on line weight, and this one I want it to be a really light thin line, so I'm just going to use the 0.5 millimeters or 0.5 millimeters. And this is something you can try out and test on different settings to see which line weights actually work the best when you plot out your drawing. But it may take a couple of test plots, and you might have to try out a few different settings. But basically you can go in and set the different thicknesses of the lines. So in color 8, I want it to be a thin line, but I also want it to be grayscale, so there's an option to change the screening. So I'm going to change that to 70%. You could think of that as transparency, or 75%. And so by changing the screening, I'm giving it more of a grayscale value or a transparency. So I'm going to hit save and close and finish, and now I'll see the floor plan 01 CTB showing up as my pen assignments, and hit OK to that and close that again. There's a couple of other settings to be aware of to get it to show up in the paper space. I'm going to go back to Page Setup Manager, modify that again, and I want to display my plot styles. So I set up my plot style, but it's not showing up. I want to check that on to make sure that it's displayed, hit OK and close. So now I can see it showing up, which seems fine, but this is basically only a representation in paper space. If I actually go to plot this and I go to preview this, you'll see that it's still showing me colors and not the line weights. So one thing that I need to do in order to change this, I'm going to go back to my page setup manager again. And another setting is to plot with plot styles. So I need to make sure that this is checked on, plot with plot styles. And this will ensure that now it's going to print out with my plot style settings. So now when I zoom in here, you can see the grayscale lines. You could see the different thicknesses of line weights and line types, and it should be set for plotting. So I'm going to hit OK to that, close out of it. Now when I go to plot, I have everything set. I'm going to preview that, give it a new name, save it, and now I have my PDF file. I'm going to rotate the page by right-clicking just to make it read upright, and that's my completed drawing. So the line weights are showing up the way I want them to. Like I said, you might have to try this out a few times to get it exactly how you want it, but that's the basic setup.